Now the venerable H&S hay rake. So this is the H&S hay rake. It's an H&S, even though it is a Massey Ferguson branded one. I had one of these. It worked okay. The problem that I had with them, you may or may not remember, this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is a 16 wheel model. I did not have the 16 wheels on. I only ran 14 with mine. Didn't I? No, I had 16. I ran 16 as well. This is definitely the H&S type thing. And similar, very similar. If this is, yeah, this is an H&S. It's an H&S. I don't remember if I had 14. I think I only used 14 wheels on mine. I didn't need the 16 wheels. But anyway, that was it was an okay rake. I pretty much wore it out. You start breaking them out here. That's just a weak point. The New Holland was that way too. And I ended up putting heavier bolts in there, and then I would listen for the bolt to pop because it sounded like a 22 hitting. And these are only grade 5 bolts. If they put grade 8 fine threaded bolts in there, that would last a lot longer. And they really did. Nothing wrong with this. Totally an H&S. It's got the same wonky wheel things. Now you go down the road, you had to get out of the tractor. You had to get out of the tractor, and you had to hook these up, because if you didn't, and you can see that they have welded those together because they're bent. That's been bent. Kind of weird how they did that. It looks like it was a pipe, and then they put that piece of steel in there or whatever. There's just some things about this, but this rake is not in terrible shape. So they obviously had to lengthen. That's neat. So yeah, I walked right by that and didn't even realize it, but they obviously had to lengthen that out. And they used a piece of John Deere something or other and painted it black. But they added to it so that they could extend the tongue. I do believe they probably had duals on the tractor or something similar, and that's what's caught that, and more than likely what had caught these as well. That's funny. I like that. That's funny. They over-greased it. Now, there's another problem with these things. If you over-grease this thing, they have a tendency to really wobble going down the road. And you can never get these tight enough. Never get those tight enough, and you'll break the bolts off of those things. And what those things are, they're just friction discs, poly friction discs in there. And when you put all that grease in there, it gets up in the poly friction disc and then basically defeats the purpose of the friction disc. I got rid of mine and got the carded rakes, and I'm going to walk back over to the New Holland Pro Cart for a couple of reasons. I got a tape measure, and I could do it here too. I don't think these are 60-inch wheels. These are 54s. I had 60s on mine. In my H&S, this is a Massey Ferguson model. In my H&S, I had the 60-inch wheels on it, and these are the 54s. Now, these arms, these are good. I never had an issue with the arms on the H&S, right? So what they've done here is they've got a steel pin that goes through, and they always mount it underneath like that. But I like this hub. I always liked this hub. It had the bearings in there. Those bearings turn. They're easy to replace. I never replaced a bearing in those when I owned my H&S. But these are 54s. Mine was a 14/1660 H&S rake. Now, I want to say that I never did that, but yeah, it kind of bound there for a second. I don't know what that was about. But I do want to say that this rake has had some acres on it. It has had some acres on it. Now, would I buy another one of these rakes? No, I wouldn't. If I remember correctly, and it's been a lot of years since I had that, and they have welded this as well. It'll break out right here. You see this? Right here is where they break out, and they have welded it. Now, if it was me, I would have pulled that thing out of there. I would have ground it out deeper, and I would have gusseted that thing right there. Where that pin goes through, this should have a gusset. Now, yep, again, right there. So when they weld that, they weld them a bit too hot, right? So if they would have taken a heavier plate of steel, there's plenty, and I mean plenty of room there for this thing to have a plate of steel put from, say, here clear to the back. All it would have to be is a 3/8 chunk of steel on the back, and on the bottom, it's not, they didn't have to weld it on the bottom, but there's plenty of room for the top and the bottom to gusset that, so that it would really just spread that torque, that pressure. And these don't break because of up and down, they break because of the twist. This twists, and it twists because of all the pressure on these. Now these are put on here right. They are definitely 100% put on there right, because these are pushers. This is a high capacity rake, very different than the carded rake. And I'll show you on the Pro Cart what the difference is and why. I would definitely, when I go to build my rake, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy these arms. Yes, I am. I'm going to buy these arms. And maybe I'll just buy one arm, and then I will build those arms like that, because these just will last for a lifetime. I can buy these hubs and this arm as a unit, not the wheel, but I'll do that. Then I don't have to build it. And instead of having this adjustable to go up and down, it won't be that way, because it'll be a carded style rake. They'll just land on the ground, and these springs will be attached to a point on the frame. That's just how I've got it. Designed in my head. And I will be using 60-inch wheels, and I'm going to make them go a little bit farther out, so that they are so that there's more clearance between here and the frame. So these are just ideas that I have, and this is how I will make it work. Something similar to this on the Pro Cart, on the cart that I'm going to make. So I've got all these plans. I've got this machine drawn out. I just need to find all the best parts of the things that I like on other machines, and then I can actually purchase some parts for this. But this is the annoying thing about H&S, and this is an H&S. It's a Massey Ferguson branded H&S. That's only 3/16 steel. Now it is a, what is this, a 4-inch piece of steel? Might be a 5-inch tube, square tube. Still, again, here, 3/16. It's not even a 1/4 inch. If they would make this out of 1/4 inch, it wouldn't break. If they would make this out of these pieces here, these have a nice, so this is the steel, the tubing, but then they make this gusset that comes down and around here, which strengthens that, and the same thing there. But all the problems that I had with my H&S, I can see them starting on this. I had a lot more acres on my H&S than what this one has. But the biggest problem that I found with my H&S was when you go down the road, you had to hook these up. Oh, there's something. Oy. Would you see that? Look at that. So that's already busted off of there. So this is a repair. I don't know why they did it that way. Is it broke off on the other side? It's not broke off on it. It's broke off on that side. No. So whatever they had there, they had to change it. I would just pop this end off, right? I would just pop this end off, this piece here, cut that sucker, and then I would cut it. Well, you don't need to cut it, because there's the coupler. Take this off, that off, and you're done. And then you could change the way that thing attaches. But when you go down the road with that thing, it'll wobble like a, that thing will wobble like a sick whore getting out of an outhouse. That thing is terrible that way. The New Holland model really went down the road nice. I never had to strap it, but this one you do. So let me get down to the New Holland Pro Cart here, and we'll go over what I like on that rake versus this rake. Now, the New Holland Pro Cart, I asked the question years ago, or the last video I did here, and I do want to do something for Lord Muck, and I'm just going to flip this around, because Lord Muck, I don't know if he's watching today, but there's a dumper right there, a dumper. That's hydraulic though, and I think that one will start. I just thought that was funny. He did a really nice video on a dumper, and he well, I'm on my way over here, I'll talk about it. And that reminds me, I got to make a phone call. a really nice video on a dumper that he bought. He paid 200 quid, which is 200 pound, which is approximately 150 or 250 US dollars. A pound is actually worth like $1.25. For every pound, it's $1.20 US 25, $1.25. So the problem with this dumper that he bought, it's only worth like $750 running. His isn't running, and it's going to cost him more money. And there is an oxbow, so I will show you the oxbow as well. Where is that pro cart? There's the pro cart. Okay, they've got there's a used pro cart here and a new pro cart there. So we're going to go look at those. So let me do this. It is raining again, by the way. What a pain in the neck. So anyway, we can look at this oxbow here. These things are stupid expensive. This is like a $150,000 unit. But it will do everything that I want it to do. The problem is it's $150,000, and for the amount of alfalfa that I would do and the amount of mulch hay that I would do, this thing wouldn't pay for itself with the mulch hay. Just isn't going to happen. It won't happen. It doesn't happen. You know, mulch hay would have to get to $130 a ton to even begin to think about paying for this with these machines. So this is not in the cards. It's just not in the cards. I'm not buying one of these things. But if I do alfalfa grass mixes, this is what it would be. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and flip this camera around and you can look at my ugly mug, and we'll walk over to this pro cart. So this pro cart, now here's another H&S Massey Ferguson. It's got the same weird thing. I bet this was made by the same, I bet this thing was owned by the same guy. Because look at this thing. The same weird setup there. Same weird setup. Oh, we're in luck. We've got a Kubota there as well. So this is exactly the same. These were the problems that I had. This one's got a few more years on it. A few more hours on it. And this is the same fix. This is the same fix. This is definitely owned by the same guy. Definitely 100% owned by the same guy. And you can see, this one's got a lot more acres through it. And these things are just, these parts are bulletproof. Bulletproof. So, the nice thing is, I've done this. I didn't have a spring, because the springs would, where's my hand? The springs would break, so I just, yeah, where's my hand? Oh, I don't see my hand. Where's my hand? But yeah, so here it is. And here's another thing. If you break here's a little tidbit of information for anybody that owns these wheel rakes. I know there's guys in Europe that are saying, those things are junk. They're junk. They're not junk. You just got to know how to operate one, and how, when you own one, you know, what's it going to be. Yes, they will rope if you don't have it set up right. But we're doing dry hay. We're not doing silage. And those great big ones. See, now this is what I like about the Kubota. Here's a Kubota. Here's a Kubota. And it's pretty bad that Kubota can figure out what I've already figured out in my own. But Kubota hasn't figured out what H&S has figured out. So, God, I'm having a good time here, because these are the ideas that I've got in my head. My idea. My idea is very similar to this idea right here. Right? This is great, because they went through the pipe. There's nothing hanging there, right? Nothing hanging there. It's not too anemic. Is that a 3/16? That is a 3/16. It's not quite a quarter. That's a 3/16 piece of steel. Too anemic for me. Here's something stupid too. All right, watch this. I'm gonna do this. Same crap. 3/16 steel. Now that's 3/16. That's heavier. All right. So you want to make strength. You want this end to last. You got to box that. That adds 30%, 35% more strength to the end of that thing by boxing that with steel. So the minute that you buy, if you're going to buy one of these rakes, and this is better than this by far, box that, strengthens that up. Even though this is just a spring on there, all the weight of that arm is pulling right here, which is pulling right here. And when you weld this, depending on the welder, if they haven't welded it correctly, it's going to fracture right there. And when that fractures right there, it's just going to follow that and break off. Trust me on that. It won't do it here because it has the strength of this here of the strength of the corner. There is 30% or 40% more strength in this corner than there is in that flat. And they did weld it around to there. So they're gaining that. But this, because it's so close to there, it'll break. Trust me, it's gonna break. Nice thing is the stoppers for this thing are here. Yes, that will, ooh, that's close to my hand. It'll come down and it won't hyperextend and it'll stop. This is what I'm going to do. Like, you know how I said that I was going to fasten that to the frame? I'm going to fasten that to the frame. The difference between what I'm going to do when I build mine and this is I'm going to rotate it, like it'll be like this. The corners, these go through the steel, strength right there. That makes it strong. It transfers everything through this steel and down the line. Whereas when you weld it to, say, the bottom here, you have just attached it to this small piece of steel here, and these eventually will break out. So if they would have took those and put them through that steel, the structural integrity of that whole thing would not change at all. It would be like this. So the pressure on this is pulling the full length of this steel. It's transferring all that stress through the whole tube instead of just this small little section. If they were to just weld this to here, you would have all that pressure and all that tension and all the stresses right in that little spot where it would be welded on the edges like it is on there. So this is an excellent, awesome idea. As a matter of fact, this rake, if it was a little bit stiffer, like if this was a 1/4 inch, that's got to be a 1/4 inch. This is a 1/4 inch. That's a 1/4 inch. So these are 1/4 inch, and they've got things in there like plastic pieces. I'm sure there's plastic in there. If there's not plastic in there, it would be pretty sloppy. Is it going to be sloppy? Let's see, how sloppy are you? I can't move it, but there's some kind of a slide in there. There has to be. Kicker wheels are stupid. Don't even bother with those. They're junk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 12-wheel rake. Plenty large enough. Plenty large enough. This is heavy. Look at this. Built heavy. Come to the center frame. What is that? It's like, okay, we're going to build this great big thing, and then we're just going to use this 3/16 piece of steel, and it's going to be really close here. If they would have drilled a hole and plated that, that would be okay. Yes, they have added a gusset to it. Yeah, big deal. You know, because they welded it on the inside. They didn't weld it here. They kind of tacked it there. I guarantee you, whoever buys this thing has a split here at some point. That's a problem. That's a problem for me. But yes. Yeah, they got some weird angular things going on here. I would not make mine adjustable until the end. Now let's see if we can find that used Pro cart. It's right here. Here's a Krone. I would love to have this unit. If I had this unit, then yeah, this is a good unit. Pro cart 14 1428 plus. Now let's see what she looks like in the tube steel. 3/16. 3/16. Got it welded there, not boxed. That may or may not break. The nice thing is, now, perfect idea almost, except this is pipe. These pipes break. I've broken every one I've ever owned right there, right here. If they would take this and bore through this piece of steel, I guarantee you that would almost be strong enough. Almost be strong enough. And then do away with this pipe thing. That's a problem. That's a problem for me. They build all this here, and then they weld like this spot weld thing. Oh man. I just don't see that this is going to hold up here. They can transfer that weight there, and it's all for the hydraulics on it. But all, now entertain me here for a second. There's 4 wheels in the back. 1, 2, 3. Well, wait. 1, 2, 3 are being, there's 3 wheels pushing with all that material because that's the center of the rake. It's actually pulling right here. Right here. Now, I would say that this may work out if they ran a piece of flat iron across the front of that thing all the way to the end, all the way to here. And then again, it wouldn't do anything there. They gusseted that. It's gusseted there. It's gusseted there. It's going to break right here. Over time, that's where it's going to break. I can see the weak parts on it. I'm being very critical of these things. And I know there's some people saying, oh, well, you just abuse the shit out of your stuff. Well, that may be. To a point, that may be true, but when you're spending the amount of money that we're spending on stuff, and we are spending an incredible amount of money on stuff, I see the ideas that I like. I like the ideas from the H&S. I like the idea from the Kuhn, right? The Kuhn goes through there. The one thing I never see anybody do is actually turn these arms so that, but this is not a square piece. This is like a 3x4. So 3x4. If they would have put this through here and then extended this arm out and then shot through and flipped those wheels so that they push instead of pull through, much better. It would be much better. I like the wheel system, the wheel setup here, because it's tandem and a lot of that shock is taken away. They've really got that thing, the weight of that is spread out. It's really spread out there. So they've done it here. They welded right, they notched that and welded it on the corner, so there's a lot of strength there. This does nothing for the strength of that. This actually should be on the other side because all that weight is pushing down. This could fold. If you break this weld right here, and it could happen, there's nothing to hold it together. It should, that gusset on the back, or that plate on the back, should be on the front, because you see the angle that thing is tilted on. What the hell is this doing? They're backwards. This should be on the front. It should be not on the back. Like somebody welded it on backwards. They should cut that thing off of there, grind it, flatten it out, and then put it on the front. You know, flip it over, put it on the front so that it lays across the front of that. There's plenty of room there, and that will strengthen that, because all that weight hammering down is just, it's already leveraged. It's already leveraged. If it was straight up and down like a posty-legged cow, fine, but it's not. It's tilted back like that, so all that weight is constantly pushing downward on that front piece. These things are stupid. First thing you do with these is take them off. Take them off. They do nothing but, that's all they do. They just plug stuff up. I have never had any luck with those things, and I've had a couple of them. So H&S arms over these, Kuhn through the pipe would be good, and yeah, the hitch, all right. This is anemic. This here is anemic. I wouldn't even bother with that. I don't like that. What they should do with this, nobody's going to be adjusting. It's a 14-wheel Pro Kart. You have a 14, you know, if you got a 14-wheel Pro Kart, this machine, what these are is convertibles. If you had a 12-wheel, you'd take this section out and you move this back. Same thing here. You just take these two wheels off. Boom, right there. Take them off, and that's the end of them. They're out of the way. Probably a 12-wheel would last a hell of a lot longer than this 14-wheel, just because of that extra weight that's out there, constantly pulling and pulling. And look at all this. I mean, it's on a little hydraulic cylinder. Nobody needs this. Nobody needs this stuff. This is not necessary. These are pretty much set it and forget it kind of things. Once you set that thing where you want it, you do that. You throw that lever. There's no lever there, but that one there will adjust in and out at the back. Could be useful, but it's not. There's just one more thing to go wrong for the most part. If I was going to do it, I would do it like the Peck way. So you set this angle to where you want it for your job, for your machine. So if you've got a 15-foot mower, you set it up so it grabs both of the 15-foot rows. And then in the back here, On these last two, you could put a pivot in with a turnbuckle, which will bring it in or take it out very simply. And that's it. You make this a solid unit. This I like, so that you can use this straight rear bar here. Again, it's anemic. This is 3/16 steel. This is what they needed to do. And like I said on the Coon, they did this right. Put a grease zerk through the hole so that you can get to it. This should be a bolt over those because they do back out. I've had that issue in the past. And yeah, there's just a lot of stuff. Just a lot of things. They got really good ideas, and then they got some really some things that you're going to have problems with. I think that that's going to be a problem. It was a problem for the H&S, which was only half the weight of what this thing is. Now, but this is a really good rake. This, of all of them, this one and the Coon, or the Kubota. Somebody's trying to call me. This one and the Kubota would be my choice over the others if I was going to be buying one, but I'm not. I'm going to build one. But if you look at this one here, to be honest with you, this one will outlast that Pro Kart. It will, just because of this. This will do it. And again, I mean, this is 3/16 steel. Look at all that. That's from the welding process. If you do buy one of these Kubotas, when you get it home, weld it. Make a cap, weld it up in there, save yourself some ass ache. This one here is far enough forward that it probably wouldn't matter. But I understand they want to make these light and easy to, light in the field. But look how Kubota has done it. So you've got that weight, that forward weight, but it's gusseted here. This is what happened to my H&S. It collapsed it, and it was pulling that out. And I think they had a kindergarten welder on this one. Look at that bad guy. That right there, that should be rejected. But yeah, so this particular one is gusseted in the right direction. That force, that angled force, is pulling from this tongue here, and it's actually pretty decent. Look at this. I didn't get on the inside of it, but it's done here. So this is all caught that just right. So there's enough beef and heft there to hold that thing up. I like this because you don't have broken bolts to break. I might look at buying this one, to be honest with you. I may look at buying this one over building my own, because this Kubota is really done right. It is, and the first thing I would do is weld that up. The adjustments are simple. They're just pins. It's a 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a 12 wheel. I need a new rake is what it's boiling down to. And I hate these plastic caps. But this is really decent. I think if I was going to buy a hay rake, it would be this Kubota. Just for this. This makes a lot of sense. These are probably 60-inch wheels. All right. I don't know. They do look like they're the 54s. I don't know. What's it say? It doesn't say what it is. These are made in the USA. Look at that. Made in the USA. Usually that means quality. But I think they're all the same. I want a pusher. I want to be pushing on the face of this so that it's clean and clear versus pulling it through, because all of this stuff here can be an obstruction. So I don't know. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about, you see how this frame is on the back side, and this is the raking force. And this guy was doing mulch hay to sticker bush. Bit me. Yeah, and I was talking about, you guys, if you do have a broken tine, change that tine. Do not ever do what this person has done. You see that? I'm going to show you. So which one's bent? The new one. Let's come around again. There's another new one on here, right? Here's the new one. That one's not bent yet. Or is it? This one's bent too, but this one's not bent. There's a little bend in it. See that little bend? First one you're going to break is the new one. There it is. New one. Let's see, we got some more new ones in here. Well, these, why, they're bent inward. You'll break these before you break any of the others. They will break the new one before it breaks the old ones, because now all the pressure, see, these are worn, right? And when you wear those, then you don't wear this one. It's not wear, it grabs into the ground more. So they might have it set up right that it's not digging in too deep. But anyways, with that being said, I think I've yammered on for 30 minutes on this thing. I just love coming out and looking at the used equipment and stuff, because I do have ideas, and they're good ideas, and they could be practical ideas. But if I put this into practice, my very own hay rake, right? So yeah, 3/16. Okay, so I'm at Zimmerman's today, and I figured I would go ahead and talk about the Peckway. Now, I had one of these. This mid cap right there, that means mid capacity rake. All right, that's what it is. It is, in all honesty, this rake does a really good job. It does a really, really good job. The problem is, when it says mid capacity, it means mid capacity. You're not going to do what I was doing with this rake. I only use this for second cut hay. Now, I'll explain why it was no good for high capacity use. And if you can't see it, and I'm sure I've already discussed it, it's right here. So that hay comes, if you can see, you start at the beginning, say you've got two 15-foot widths, and there's only maybe 18 inches of tines below these here. You see what I'm talking about? If you take a straight line and drew it from there to the edge of these wheels, literally 18 inches. So you grab all that hay in the beginning, and then it keeps rolling. It's raking it up, and by the time you get to the back, it's already into here, and it would catch right here and stop the hay from flowing in, which was the biggest problem that I had. Now, this is a used hay rake. These were great rakes. I'm not going to lie. They really were. It was a really good rake. I can honestly say that I even drug this thing down to North Carolina to rake. Or did I take it to North Carolina? I did take it to North Carolina. I took it down to North Carolina one year if I had to rake straw over, because I wasn't going to. I know I took it to the Eastern Shore in 2019. You got to be careful here. This is a spot which needed to be gusseted. Now, the H&S, believe it or not, because this is hollow, they actually welded inside of there and into here. They put an extension in there to actually brace this to this. If I'm building a rake, I'm cutting that out, and we're just going to weld it solid and gusset it, because if you buy a 12-wheel rake, and I know why they do it for the ease of manufacture, because this rake can be you see this? So this is a 12-wheel rake. You can make it a 10-wheel, or you can just take these off completely and make it an 8-wheel. And that dictates that center section there, whether it has one for the 12-wheel, or half of that for the 10-wheel, or none of it for the 8-wheel rake. So anyway, I have a phone call. Hold on a second. Okay, back to it. So as I was talking about the other hay rakes, making this solid, and then to the back, this pivot piece here, I would do this. If I'm building a rake, I'm doing that, because I think it would work out really, really well. Now, hold on a second. Just for the gits and shiggles of it, I want to see what the thickness of these are. I don't believe I ever broke an arm. Now, to the defense of, 3/16. No matter what, it's 3/16. or 3.5 millimeter. I guess you want to say that. Maybe that's what it is. Now we're going to talk about the legs that go down. With the New Holland, I felt that that was just awful. And if you can see here, I can't say that it's the best. This works for lateral movement, but to be quite honest with you, I still think that there needs to be more there. They are bracing it with this ramped up thing to the back, so that's going to transfer it from the bottom to forcing it that way. Eventually it may break out. I never had a problem with that. But these rakes were really good, with the exception of doing heavy amounts of hay. If you're doing light amounts of hay, no problems. It'll just rake all day long. I think they're releasing these out. These barely have any use on them, but they've got some use on them. Whether they were demonstrator models or whatnot, I don't know. Now, Peckway, in my opinion, needs to do some work with their welders. These are shallow. Even though this is a gusset, but still, it just doesn't look like it looks like they moved way too fast with the welder. These are not automated welds. These are welds by human hands. People are welding these things. You can tell in the quality of the weld. Whereas a bigger company like New Holland would have well, let's just put it this way. Let's come over here. I think these are welded by hand as well. Yeah, I think they are, but they're not robotically welded. I can just tell by these welds. Look at this. You see how that weld is like that? My issue with Peckway was more or less the welds. These pins broke out. I remember having to re-weld those. They were only welded on the outside, which gave it room for flex, and it would snap out those. Not the end of the world kind of stuff, but it's just, just little annoyances and things that you see when you're working with these things. So they would just flex enough to break that, to crack the weld on the outside. Just a weld on the inside, on both sides of that thing and the outside, and it would be fine. It would never break again. These arms, these things here, very minimal adjustments to those. So yeah, that's just my opinion of it is that of. And here's another thing that, like if just looking at this one here, they've got this one here adjusted way to one side, and this one here is pretty much flat and level, like this one here, which proves my point. You get into heavy hay, it catches on here. And the other thing is, yes, they have a heavy enough piece here, but it's only welded on the inside here and here, and it's only welded on the flat. So what's going to happen? Eventually, we did lose one of these, and it bent the shit out of that. Eventually, it's just going to split out here, especially on the end ones. The beginning, in the front and in the back. Generally, the front ones on the H and S's were the worst ones because they were right out towards the end. But you can see, this is where it's going to break. No matter what, that's where it's going to break. So that's why when I was looking at the Kubota one, even though I'm an American, I would love to see this piece here on a bigger tube, say a 5x5 tube, and that goes right through the center of it, welded up. These pipes, they do break. They break right here because they're welded too hot, and you can see there's some weld erosion. I don't know the technical term for it, but when they weld it, it erodes that pipe, and that pipe is only that 3/16 thick. So that heat stress and it creates a problem. Mid-capacity rake, right? It's a mid-capacity rake. It's not really designed to do what I do when I'm doing it. It just isn't. Anyway, I know this video was a little long-winded and everything, but yeah, now don't get me wrong here. I think every one of these rakes is designed to do what it's designed to do. Small farms, nothing huge. It's a cheap rake. It's not a rotary rake where it's going to cost you minimum of $20,000, for a decent sized twin rotor or something like that. I will never buy a rotary rake. I just find them to be too overly engineered, and when they break, they're expensive to fix. These are cheap to fix. Now, Ogden makes a really good rake. It is a pusher type, just like I've been saying. I don't know what the cost of that thing is, and I've never seen one up close and personal. but that would be something that I would like to see in the future anyway. But anyways, with that being said, we are probably going to build this thing. It's the groundwork's laid out. I know exactly where it needs to be and how it needs to be done. It's just the time to do it. So after harvest and before before spring planting, I do have lime to do, so I can definitely, we're definitely going to figure out how we're going to do this. Uh, the the question is, do I build two at the same time or just one? If I build two and they're both junk, because it could happen, I'm not perfect. Then I've got two pieces of junk that I got to deal with. If I build one, I've only got one piece of junk that costs me maybe $3,000 to put together, $4,000 to put together, and there you go. That's just the way that is. But my ideas are solid and sound because I can see through all the rakes that I just looked at that there are pros and cons to every single one of them. But the best one, in my opinion, is actually the Kubota rake. And I know I called it a coon rake. It's not a coon, it's a Kubota. That rake, to me, seemed to be the best one. And it's probably a Pottinger if I'm right. I know that they have different companies that they have acquired to get into the larger ag business. So anyways, with that being said, if you stuck around this long, say, I love your idea and in the comments, and we'll see how that goes. There you go. Thanks for watching.